Hi everyone, welcome back to another link to linguistics. And today's topic is profanity. So first up, taboo. To set a foundation for understanding why profane language is profane, it's really helpful to have a basic understanding of how taboo functions in our culture. A taboo is an implied prohibition on a behavior or an utterance. When something is taboo, there's a general understanding by everyone that that thing is taboo. And taboo can be found in virtually all societies. Taboos are often meant to protect the human individual, especially vulnerable or innocent ones like children. So what's taboo language? Taboo language is basically a means to censor. But just because a concept is taboo doesn't mean it's always forbidden to talk about. In fact, there are all kinds of really interesting ways that humans weave our way around tabooness, and it has to do with the context and the words you choose. So for example, if you're chatting with your doctor about a problem you're having with your bowels, you and your doctor will probably hedge and use fancy academic language to refer to what's going on. You'd probably say something like, "My bowel movements haven't really been too regular lately." And you would definitely not use a different word to refer to that, one that starts with SH and ends with T. There are lots and lots of words that refer to the form our food takes when it comes out the other end, and even though they all refer to the same taboo object, only one of those words is actually profane. And this is one of the reasons a linguistic lens can be helpful in understanding how profanity functions in our culture. Something can be inherently taboo, but if you use elevated language, it's acceptable to mention, whereas if you use profane language, it's offensive. So, not all words referring to something taboo are profane, like wart or cannibalism, but all profane words do stem from something that is taboo. That brings us to profanity. Interestingly, across every culture, profane terms usually fall into one of 5 categories: religion, sexual behavior, being likened to an animal, excrement, and references to the outgroup or othering, like racist terms. And profane words are undecontextualizable. Okay, let's break that down. So decontextualize means take it out of its context. And if you add the that means that you are unable to actually take it out of its context. And this is why I didn't actually say the SH ending with T word earlier. Because even though we're talking about these topics in a nice, civilized, academic setting, that word still holds every ounce of power it would in any other setting. So we, as a society, actually put safeguards around these words, and this gives them more power. But to make things more complicated, not all phrases that contain a bad word actually mean something bad or offensive. You can totally say, "Alexa, I love you. You're the best." And on the other side of that, lots of phrases that don't contain bad words can still mean something really offensive or abusive. And this is what makes censorship so difficult to scale. Wait, so why do organizations and governments even care about spending time censoring things like television, radio, and stuff Alexa says? Who cares? Well, remember how the whole idea of avoiding taboo is meant to protect us as a collective society? We all agree upon what is taboo and agree that we should shield innocent members of our society from vulgar, offensive things. So rules and regulations are put into place by institutions to censor language that is surfaced or broadcasted in the mainstream. Up to this point, that mainly included radio and TV. But now, voice assistants fall into this category too. So if you're a big company and you're trying to gain your customers' trust by appearing very wholesome, you'll avoid putting profanity into your marketing copy, your TV ads, your voice assistant's vocabulary. As a voice designer, it's obviously very important to think about the voice of the brand that you're trying to convey. If you're on the Alexa team, you may be able to control exactly what Alexa says to a user, and you can totally decide that she's never going to use any kind of expletives, even in a positive way. But you'll never be able to control what a user says to her, and then it's your job to respond to that. If you're a designer on the Alexa team, deciding how she should respond to offensive language, it's probably not going to work to just write down a bunch of words that you and the team deem bad, and then decide on some catch-all response that she'll use, or maybe she'll just ignore you. I mean, for all all you know, someone was actually saying something very flattering to her, just very emphatically. But other times, someone might be saying something very offensive to her. So in cases like this, should Amazon have the right to chastise the user or tell them not to be so offensive to Alexa? Side note, this all gets very interesting when we start to think about how Alexa's default voice is female. But we do not have time to get into that right now. Humans are very, very good at knowing when somebody is offending us or flattering us. But it's much harder to teach a robot this. So, should you be policing the language of your users in the first place? Who told Amazon that they're the moral gatekeepers of language? And is this something Amazon even wants to take responsibility for? This is not an easy question to answer, but in general, there are two camps. There are people that believe a conversation with a robot should be treated in the same way as a conversation with a human. Therefore, if you wouldn't say it to a human, you shouldn't say it to a robot. This stance would, in theory, give Amazon the right to censor the language of their users if somebody said something offensive to Alexa. And there are other people that believe a robot is a robot, even if it sounds like a human and talks like a human and can do some human-like things like tell a joke. It doesn't matter because Alexa is not a human. Usually people in this camp believe that you should be able to say whatever you want to say to a robot. And Amazon has no right to design responses for Alexa where she can act offended or tell you to watch your language or anything like that. A lot of these questions obviously start touching on ethics and morality, so it's really important for people on these teams to actually be looking at it through that lens as well. So what do you think? Do you think Alexa should be policing people's language, chastising the users, or do you think anyone should be able to say whatever they want to her? I'd love to hear what you think, and I will see you next time on the link to linguistics.